Hi, everybody. My name is Avery Lavoie, and I am here with Nando Jaramillo and Alexis Yamashita. Both are board members of Moon and Stars, an organization in Vermont in the Upper Valley that's working to build a more equitable and just food system. I'm really happy that you both are here. So I'll give a little background. Nando is longtime Vermonter, born in Columbia, and has dedicated his life here to really important issues that we're facing in Vermont, nationally and globally, in our food and agriculture system, and believes strongly that ag and food impact all of our lives, as I also believe, and is dedicated his work here to social justice, food sovereignty, and bettering our local food systems. And in 2016, Nando moved to Vermont and saw Vermont as a model for sustainable food systems, and that is also why I moved back to Vermont. And he co-founded Moon and Stars, which you can tell us a little bit more about in a moment. And just really want to thank you for your time here.
Thank you, Avery.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll give a little bit of background on Alexis too. Yamashita is a community organizer here in Vermont and has been working with seed-based cooperatives and initiatives since 2017, and is now a PhD candidate with the UVM Food Systems program. Alexis is a founding member and co-director of the Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance, which is a BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, People of Color seed farming collective working to increase access to culturally meaningful seed varieties and sustainable seed-saving practices. And you also have a background in music performance, which I think is so beautiful, and herbalism, and like I mentioned, currently a PhD candidate at the University of Vermont. And so maybe, Nando, you can start with giving a little bit more background about how you arrived in food systems work.
Yeah, thank you, Avery. Thank you for inviting us. And yeah, it's a long story. I don't know if we're gonna have time, but I can give you like a little background on how I arrived in Vermont and how this project came about. Yeah, I came up here for a summer to visit a friend in Montpelier that used to volunteer with us in our organization in Miami. And yeah, I fell in love with Vermont. and I saw the potential of creating that. I had a vision. I saw that Vermont could be that model that we're looking for. And with that in mind, I started like trying to figure out how to make my move here and connecting with the people that could help me create this vision. And 7 years later, I'm here and we're growing corn. We're producing arepas, empanadas. We do stuff with the schools. What else can I tell you? No, I think that's about it, yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear more about the vision for Moon and Stars and hear about the connection. And maybe you can give a little bit of background, Alexis, about how you and Nando met and what your background in farming and ag is.
Yeah, and I think maybe the natural point to start is how I connected with Nando, and it's pretty serendipitous. I'm sitting here today because I met Nando back in 2023 before I moved to Vermont at a event that was focused on looking at how like biodiversity is really connected and celebrated through like our culinary like pathways. So we met at an event in New York back in 23. And then I am a recent-ish transplant to Vermont. I just moved here back in June to start the Food Systems PhD program at UVM. And when I moved here, I connected with Nando, and he graciously invited me to become a part of Moon and Stars. So yeah, very much like our friendship and connection has been very much on the backdrop of seeds and a mutual like valuing of wanting to see a better seed system and a better food system, not only in our country writ large, but very much on the local level too. Yeah.
Yeah, could you give a little bit of background for folks about Ujamaa?
Yeah, so most recently, I am a founding member and former co-director of Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance. We got started as a project back in 2021, looking to address the biases that are in our current seed access, and looking at how there are a lot of communities that are seeking their traditional seeds and for their traditional food pathways. So we, as a collective, are very much advocating for support for BIPOC farmers and communities to help increase access to education and resources for sustainable seed growing and seed saving practices. And another big part of Ujamaa is, again, looking at the increased access to culturally relevant seed varieties. And really what that means is looking at the seed varieties that are very much underrepresented in how we access our seeds, whether that be through seed companies or non-monetary seed access here in the United States. So in wanting to increase access for those seed varieties for the communities that are seeking them out, to reconnect them to their traditional food pathways.
Yeah, thank you. And that sounds like it resonates with Moon and Stars. And Moon and Stars is you're making arepas, you're growing this beautiful corn, Zapalote Chico corn. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about the work that Moon and Stars does in the Upper Valley. You mentioned bringing corn into schools and
I feel like the vision behind Moon and Stars is how do we create this food system that we envision. And for me, that's like really deep in my heart because I feel like food is the single most important issue that we're facing as humanity. And the idea to design this food system that will align with all these merits and goals, and so goes into like how we grow the food, how we process it, and how we distribute it, and so we take that into our, ethical and how do we bring it to the community. For serendipitously, one of the persons that I first met when I got here to Vermont, she's a seed saver. And during the pandemic, she grew this special strain called Zapalote Chico. And she called me and she says, "Hey, Nando, I grew this corn. I have been like looking for like something that could like resemble what I have my memory recall as what an arepa tasted like."
From your home.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of like, my vision or my goals with this was to like, how do we bring back this food back to the roots? And because I saw the shift in the 90s when we started importing corn to Colombia, and I saw the shift that, people started like adopting this flour masa thing as like part of their cultural heritage and kind of like obscure the original the way that we used to make food, and so with that in mind, my friend gave me this corn that she grew, and I went and I cooked it that night, and I grinded it the next morning, and when I started making an arepa and stuff, and I tried it, it took me back to when I was a kid, and I called Ruth right away, and I said, "Ruth, like we have something really, very important here. this is beautiful. And so we've been in that process breeding this corn for the past 4 years. And yeah, we've been growing it at different farms, sharing with the community. And now for the first time, we're growing it at a scale that we could like share it with all the community. Growing here in Vermont, we're growing around 8 acres in different plots. And yeah, I'm very excited to share this with the community. Yeah, and the research that has been done about this strain is really important because there has been like creating this microeconomy around this corn in where it's from. It's a Oaxacan strain that that's probably, I don't know, 5,000 years. And according to some scientists, it's like the most perfect plant in the planet. That's what.
I bet
yeah.
seed savers say that about a lot of plants.
But
Yes, I agree.
Well, but they base this information, well, on the research that I've done with the Zapalote Chico, is they base it on, is this term called favorable genetic complexes. And I didn't know what it was, but when I started doing research, it was really important because favorable genetic complexes are groups of genes that help the plant in better in some ways, either in resilience, drought resistance, or adaptability. And this plant has 22 of those favorable genetic complexes that no other plant in the planet have. And that's why they kind of like name it that. Yeah, I just fell in love with this, and we've been growing it for the past 4 years, and now we're finally at that stage where we can like bring it to the community and share it. Yeah.
So this corn has helped you reconnect to your roots and reconnect to a food system that you mentioned is so much a part of your heart, and it is also now becoming something that you can share with the community.
Yeah.
And one, it sounds like that has potential to support us through climate change and through bringing us back to perhaps a smaller, more localized food system.
Yeah.
And Alexis, I'm curious about your relationship to Zapalote Chico as a seed saver, if you have any, or what planting this seed means to you.
Yeah, definitely it does hit a personal connection with me on, I think, many different points, not only the work that I've been involved in over the last years with really wanting to advocate for what we need to increase and preserve our biodiversity, but from really like a community serving and cultural focus, you know, of how we approach the work. But on a personal level too, I'm a Japanese Hispanic American, and thinking the first time I tasted Zapalote in Nando's masa, it just evoked so many childhood memories for me of like the tamales my Hispanic grandmother made, you know, as a kid. And yeah, and just like, but it was a completely different experience then because, you know, of course, the masa that I grew up with was very much the conventional, you know, masa that we've, you know, find in stores, which I still like very much have like a strong connection to because that's, you know, what my grandmother used. But thinking about, you know, my Hispanic side of the family's Tejano, you know, and being within close proximity, you know, of, you know, just kind of thinking of that closer connection to the corn. And yeah, and the first time I tasted it, you know, I really thought of her and thought about, wow, if she were alive to experience this corn, you know, and thinking about like how that may have been closer to the corn that, you know, my family used to be able to have access to and to eat. And yeah, it just very much, and I know that's been like a point of connection that I've had, you know, and that's been very meaningful connecting with Nando in this work too, is yeah, just very much on a personal connection as well. And, you know, also, you know, really feeling that, yeah, if we did more work towards this, this is really, you know, the masa we can have, you know, more access to, and just like, and then kind of expanding out of like, this could be more of our food landscape, you know, and yeah, that's something that like very much excites me, you know, about, you know, being able to be involved in this work and getting up out of bed every morning, you know,
Yeah.
is knowing that, yes, we can make this happen and see, you know, this more in our world writ large and here in Vermont in our local food system.
Yeah, connecting people to place, connecting people to lineage and their ancestry, as well as welcoming new people into Vermont
Yeah.
that might want to feel that taste of home. And I have friends who are making masa, and that is another connection that Nando and I have. And I had this conversation with my friend Evan about when I'm having a meal that maybe hasn't been touched by a lot of people I know or hasn't been grown by people I know, I don't feel as much of a relationship to it,
Yeah.
even though I might be enjoying it. And we had this conversation about how he calls it eating strangers. I think I told you this.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is that this corn and growing these foods is like bringing in family.
Yeah. And I think that's also something that we emphasize in our work in Moon and Stars, is how important that sense of home, that sense of family, that sense of tradition are in us looking to, you know, looking towards the solutions that we need to improve our local food system, and really wanting to advocate for, again, the importance those hold, and that it should be a priority and not held as something optional or kind of like a luxury of like, oh, you can maybe have this if, you know, but
If you're wealthy or
yeah, or, you know, something that's, you know, kind of optional, like, oh, if we can achieve it, great, but if not, it's not a big deal. And, you know, what Moon and Stars is really trying to, again, advocate for is this is part of the issue, you know, and needs to be at the forefront of how we approach our food and ag work.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more about what Moon and Stars is doing in the Upper Valley with your relationship to schools and some of the community events that you have to bring people in?
Well, we're focusing a lot right now in the growing of the corn. And the idea is to bring this corn into the school system. That's my primary goal. And so, yeah, because I feel like, you know, we have to change the way that we feed our, you know, our community. And you are what you eat. And if you eat crap, that's what you're gonna give those kids, you know? And so I feel like it's a topic that should be brought into the schools more and have some kind of, so that's what Moon and Stars is doing. It's like connecting with the community, showing them what we could do locally and create a food system that really aligns with all this regenerative vision, and just produce food for, you know, good food for one day I went to this soil workshop, and this lady said some beautiful words that always stuck in my mind, and it has helped me like keep going in this work. And she said, as we heal our soil and food becomes more nutrient dense, we'll start thinking more creatively. And it's about like, how do we bring this food and all these microorganisms that were there on the soil, and how do we build a more nutrient dense food that could create that shift in our minds and in our health to become like a sustainable society, you know? And I'm working to see what the difference is in those microorganisms at a deeper level, and seeing how it reflects from like conventionally growing corn to like growing corn in a sustainable regenerative manner, you know? And because for me, that's really important. How do we shift from all this bad food that we've been accustomed and brought into like a more regenerative food system, you know? And yeah, for me, that's the key issue. How do we start feeding and educating kids about the importance of sustainable food, you know? And how do we shift the politicians and these people that are thinking just about like, how do we fund this instead of like, how do we create food systems that could help, you know? And for me, Moon and Stars kind of encompasses all these things, because it's about like, how do we build infrastructure or build a design for food systems that really bring all these concepts together. And one of the key issues for me is distribution, you know, because distribution is so expensive to move food, and it's because of the high cost of diesel and fuel that we spend moving this food, when we could create more. My idea, it's or I don't know if somebody else has this idea, but to create this infrastructure along the railway. And how do we create this electric railway where we don't have this carbon footprint to move all this food and move it in a sustainable way? I feel like if we create all these hubs along the railway and give farmers access to facilities where they can process all this food, we have to start thinking about how do we create this master plan on our food systems, not just like start, you know, improvising where we're going to do this, but create like a plan on like, oh, how are we going to move all this food in a sustainable way, you know?
And starting from the local community, and I just want to repeat what you said, to heal the soil,
Exactly.
healing our relationship to food, creates a more imaginative way of being in relationship to food. And I want to turn it over to you.
Yeah, and you know, I think at the heart of the work that we're doing is also very much, you know, trying to like help support local food systems in the way that we are also decentralizing our like main mass commodity global food systems. Because as we've seen through, you know, unfortunately through, you know, what we've been navigating in recent years, you know, with COVID and politically too, of seeing the failures in global supply chains, you know, which I think is front and center on a lot of our minds, is just kind of thinking about like how we need to move forward. And I think it's very much embedded in the mission of Moon and Stars to really, you know, say that, you know, part of that solution is for us to decentralize our food system and to support local and regional systems, you know, and not only our food system, but as Nando was mentioning, like our agriculture and also our seed systems, you know. And I think something else that comes to mind for me, you know, is thinking about the role of seed in all of, you know, our food system work, and how we have not only gotten disconnected from like our traditional varieties, but also we have been disconnected from a seed system that is really sustainable and really fortifies us, you know, as well. And that's something that's been really interesting in my work with seeds over the past years is, and I have to say, you know, it wasn't until I got involved with seeds that it really was at the forefront of my mind. And we know inherently that seeds are the underpinning of our food because it's where it comes from. But the connections that seeds really have to the sustainability of our food and ag systems, I think there sometimes is often quite a big divide, you know, in making those connections. So as a part of what Moon and Stars is trying to do is reconnect, not only, again, from a place of culture and a sense of belonging that we derive from the food we consume and our, you know, how we access food, but also to reconnect, you know, like the importance of, you know, sustainable seed work to our food and ag system as well, and to bring that back into focus as an emphasis.
So connecting back to our relationship of where does this food come from and where does it need to go?
Yeah.
And could you share a little bit more about what a decentralized food system looks like?
Yeah, so, and Nando, of course, I'd invite any of your thoughts too on this question. Yeah, and what I personally envision, you know, when I think of the work that I do with Moon and Stars and my own personal work that I'm doing with seeds, and what does a decentralized food system look like? It is really, honestly, and something that I've really loved, you know, getting to know Vermont, is looking what Vermont has here, is really looking to support local and regionally based systems where your food is being grown and produced, you know, pretty close to where you are. And really also looking at the whole of the supply and value chain in that, to also, you know, connect local and regional participants in all of the activities. So with, you know, Moon and Stars, with our work with seeds, you know, that's something we're looking to help, you know, support in the Northeast, is, you know, local access to the zapalote seeds. So, you know, when I say the whole supply chain, it's looking at all the different inputs and activities that are needed to produce the food that the communities in the Northeast are seeking to. So that's really, when I think about decentralized, it's really thinking on that local and regional basis, and how can we support doing as much of the production, you know, activities within, you know, our given, like, geographical, like, proximity.
I think that that's very important.
Yeah, yeah. Could you talk a little bit about some of the partners that Moon and Stars has felt supported by, and then go into what is really needed to help continue the mission of Moon and Stars? What do you think you need in terms of community support?
We need money to build this.
Yes.
And, I
Your
don't
needs
know.
are important to us, please.
Yeah, I feel like we're living in a time, a historic time, and it's hard. You know, we're going through a rough time in life, and it's hard to, like, grow and fund projects like this. You know, we're going there. You know, I feel like it'll manifest, and it has been manifesting. We have our kitchen, we have our distribution, and it's and all the dots are there. They're just connecting, and we're going to focus more on the school and how we get, you know, the government to help us build this infrastructure to be able to feed our kids in school in a sustainable way. You know, yeah. I'm pleading out to, like, the state and seeing how they can help fund this project, you know?
Yeah, and I, you know, want to recognize, you know, the position that Moon and Stars is being in as a young emergent organization, that, you know, there's a lot of amazing young emergent organizations across the state and the region. And I think something that we really connect with in that experience, as Nando said, is just, you know, finding resources to, you know, really continue to, you know, develop and get up and running. And, you know, to the point that you made too about, like, collaborators, you know, really want to say a heartfelt thank you to the collaborators that we've you know, made connections with in Vermont, especially the, group of growers we're working with to grow out the Zapalote Chico and help further our, research and endeavors, with the corn as well. So we have received a tremendous amount of support in the way of finding collaborators where we're all swimming in the same direction too. And yeah, and as a young emergent organization, we also face many of the barriers that most young emergent organizations face in the way of resource access and support to really get to that next level.
And you mentioned financial resources. You mentioned you have beautiful support from the community, and you also have land access to think about. What has that been like, and how have you been able to access land to grow the corn?
Well, the field that we're working on is kind of funny because there was a land that is owned by the town where I live in South Royalton, and the lease for the people that were leasing it came up, and so they had to like put it up to the community to see if anybody wanted to bid on it, to lease the land, and I don't know, they put it in a hat with all the people that wanted the land, and a law school student came and he picked us. And
Literally put it in a hat?
Yeah. And we got that land. So that's how we got the land.
Yeah.
And it's been a collaboration with the NRCD, with Willie Gibson, who has, Willie. I love Willie.
Me too.
And
then NRCD is the Natural Resource Conservation District,
Yeah.
which is the White River.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's been like helping us with that process. And there's another field south between South Royalton and Sharon that I always dreamt of planting that field. And it manifested. Like, these people came and they bought the property, and Willie talked to them through the NRCD and told them to connect with me. And they've been like really helpful because they have tractors, they have all the equipment, they have planters. And so they've helped us with, and they let us use that field this year. So that's been a blessing. We're also growing some with another grain grower in South Vermont, Tyler. And yeah, that's our corn growing happening this year.
Yeah, so it's been this relationship, or did you have something to add?
Well, yeah, there was a lot of work.
Don't say.
For the past month and a half, 2 months, we've been like working every day there. But the fields are looking really good. And yeah, we're doing the best that we can to grow this corn in a sustainable way. And yeah.
So it sounds like what has made it possible for Moon and Stars to continue is, in this context, a relationship between the White River Natural Resource Conservation District, staff who are really amazing at building relationships and support, as you said, kind of in the same flow,
Yeah.
and farmers who also share a similar vision.
Yep.
And that's kind of a trifecta of what is needed is, well, you need the financial support too, but in the interim right now, you have people that are really working together to support the vision.
Exactly.
And I think it's a twofold of, seeking out that additional financial support and growing that trifecta, and I think this is where, as an organization, we're always seeking people to connect and collaborate with. And, I think this goes to the heart of really also supporting, and strengthening our local food system too, is this cross collaboration, between farmers and organizations. So that's something that I know is on our mind, is how do we grow the ecosystem that we've currently established, and feeling like I'm very grateful for the connections we have, but how do we further connect on a community-based level to further, further our work as Moon and Stars, but also to support furthering the work of, other amazing people in the community, so we can see that vision cumulatively manifest to a thriving local food system.
Yeah, and other organizations in Vermont that you might want to uplift or shout out, please feel free to. I just want to honor that we've talked about the importance of biodiversity. We've talked about the importance of building soil health to support a more imaginative food system, and that is a representation of a healthy ecosystem ecologically and also socially, right? When we have a healthy mycelial network, when we have a healthy soil systems, biodiverse soil systems, then we see that as a projection in our social systems.
Yeah.
And I don't have an ancestral that I know of or lineage related to corn, but I know it's what brought me in part back to Vermont. And since having Nando's Arepas, now I have this relationship to Moon and Stars. And so I want to give you a little bit of space to uplift some of the organizations in Vermont that are really doing some amazing work. And I also want to know how you came up with the name Moon and Stars.
Yeah.
Moon and Stars, it was a little farm in Miami. We named it because my ex-wife is she's a Steiner fan, and we decided that was she named it Moon and Stars. And when we moved here, we had a little cart already with the Moon and Stars, so we were just like, we'll call it Moon and Stars, you know? And it was about like, you know, growing food with the moon and the stars.
Yeah, to me, I feel that this name really encompasses the relationship that we have to the earth and to the stars that give us so much, and to the moon that is a reflection of this beautiful sun that nourishes us. And so I appreciate the call back to your ex-wife, and also that we really need all parts of our ecosystem and our solar system and our universe to support us.
Yeah, and I guess you know, some people that I'd love to give a shout out to, and you know, curious who's on your mind, Nando, but one, you know, here. More locally to us here in Burlington, Bread and Butter Farms, who is doing a grow out of Zapalote for us this year, and they've been amazing friends and supporters. You know, I think too of like what Nando was mentioning with the Vermont Law and Graduate School in South Royalton, who has, you know, very much greatly supported our project, and yeah.
Vital Communities also has supported us. And there's also this foundation in the Upper Valley, is the Burn Foundation, and she has been like really supportive of the project, and help us continue our work in different aspects and projects that we're endeavor, you know?
Yeah, and the Upper Valley Seed Savers, of course. And if folks are unfamiliar with the Upper Valley Seed Savers, I'd highly, you know, recommend, you know, looking into them. And it's just really inspiring, you know, the work that they are doing on preserving and also regionally adapting, you know, traditional seed varieties. So they've, as Nando was mentioning, have been very much at the heart of, you know, the groundwork for Moon and Stars.
Amazing.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Ruth, who brought in the Zapalote Chico to me, is one of the directors at the Upper Valley Seed Saver. Yeah. And it's been like, you know, a really good relationship with them.
Yeah, I want to honor, too, that we speak so much about the human connection, and just want to honor that Zapalote Chico has a life of their own, and is also part of this story of wanting to be planted, wanting to be shared, wanting to be eaten. And if folks are wanting to have some arepas, which are amazing, where can they go to get them? How can we support Moon and Stars with the financial gifts that are so necessary?
Well, we produce now arepas with a wapsi. We're just introducing the new Zapalote Chico corn. Hopefully we'll have some arepas for sale at a scale that we can support the community. But you can contact me directly at my email, I don't know, or the website, and yeah, we'll figure out a way to get some arepas.
We'll also be at events throughout the summer and through the fall. And we will have arepas with the Zapalote, Chico. And as Nando was mentioning, we're, working to integrate this into more of Moon and Stars offerings. Since the first substantial grow out we had at the Zapalote, working with farmers in the Northeast, just happened last growing season. So this is really still a developing part of Moon and Stars, but I do want to uplift, the variety of corn that Nando mentioned, is that this is also an heirloom, corn that is sourced locally. So that is
the wapsi.
The wapsi, yeah.
Yeah, so that is something that has always been at the heart of Moon and Stars, is working with heirloom varieties that are regionally adapted, for us here in Vermont. And but if folks stay tuned to our events page on our website and follow us on Instagram, we will be appearing, as Nando said, with the cart, at events throughout the summer and fall.
Awesome. And lastly, as we're kind of wrapping up, is there some kind of policy direction or pieces of policy that you'd like to talk about that could really help the state support Moon and Stars and support a locally regenerative food system?
Policy, what do you mean by policy?
Yeah, so how can the state better support Moon and Stars and building a just food system?
Well, I feel like there should be a deep conversation around the effects of conventional agriculture on our environment, and we have to put that up front, and I feel like that's where the state is lacking, because I don't know if it's lack of information or support or what, but I feel like that should be a big topic on how do we evolve from this unsustainable agricultural system into creating something that's good for the earth,
So having more conversations, robust conversations about food access and regenerative ag, like maybe the Northeast Organic Farmers Association, as NOFA, is doing, and hosting farmer roundtables, and it sounds like just continuing to
And I think another thing that would be tremendously helpful to put in the mix from a policy focus, because definitely want to acknowledge the amazing work that is already existing in Vermont to have a radically different food and ag landscape than other places in the U.S. right now. But I think also having an emphasis on supporting work with seeds, specifically, and looking at regional adaptation and also increasing biodiversity, in ways that are, as we're talking sustainable, and what we mean by sustainable is giving more agency to farmers and communities to grow the food that they are seeking out, the food that they want, and also to be able to access seed in a healthier way, and to maybe create policy that supports supporting farmers transitioning to other seed types rather than the seeds that we commonly see in farming that come from the 4 biochemical companies that really dominate our commercial ag space. So when I think about your question about how local policy can support, what's aligned with Moon and Stars, really having, an emphasis on supporting a local seed system in the way of, again, increasing biodiversity and regional adaptation, and, hopefully, moving towards a future where more of our seeds that we use in our farming and even down to home gardeners and community gardens can access seeds that come right, here from the Northeast.
Yeah, thank you for that. Really uplifting seed access, heirloom varieties, bioregional varieties, and ones that are culturally relevant and share those beautiful stories. And I'm also hearing that if folks want to get engaged or involved with Moon and Stars, they can reach out to you on the website, which we'll have available, and they could reach out to you directly. And if folks are interested in more seed saving events, is that something that Ujamaa offers or could point folks in a direction towards?
Yeah, with Ujamaa, yes, they have seed saving events, and they also are looking for seed growers to collaborate with. So, like Moon and Stars, can find Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance on the web too if anybody would like to connect with Ujamaa.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And is there anything else in the last 1 or 2 minutes that we have that you'd really like people to leave with, an understanding of Moon and Stars?
Well, I want to thank all our board members, because I have this really badass group of women
Yeah.
that help me do this. And I
Shout out to
thank
Karen Gainey,
Alexis.
too.
Yeah. And so I want to just name them and just thank them for all the work that they help us do.
Yeah, do you want to name them so folks know?
It's Karen, Hunter, Emma, Tess,
Francie,
Shelby, Alexis, and yeah, those are my girls.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I want to echo just gratitude for being here having this conversation with you today, and very much gratitude to Nando for inviting me to be a co-conspirator with Moon and Stars. It has definitely, been a significant part of me cultivating my new life in Vermont, and just have so much appreciation for Nando's vision and, all of the work that he's done, over the last years to manifest Moon and Stars, and something we critically need, I think also the last thing that kind of comes to mind to leave on this note is something that has stuck in my head for many, many years. From my mentor, Ira Wallace, with Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. Back in the early days when I was getting to know seeds and getting involved with Southern Exposure, Ira said, seed saving is an everyday act of resistance. And it's something that has forever, stuck in my head. And I feel like this is something I hold very close and dearly, these words of my mentor. And as my years go on, as I, grow my relationship with seeds, it feels like an onion, and just continuing to peel the layers of what it means when we say seed saving is an everyday act of resistance. And it truly is, and I really feel that seeds hold so much power, transformative power in our lives, that they're just this amazing, gift we have. So I want to give a shout out to Ira, because without her, I would not be sitting here. And I will wrap up there with her words of wisdom.
Amazing. Yeah, seed saving as an active everyday
Resistance.
part of resistance, as is joy. And that is what I have felt so much of being in relationship with you, Nando, and getting to meet you, Alexis, and wanting to really call that in, is that when we create food systems that are centered in joy and centered in community and centered in heart work, that is when that is how I've felt the shift towards more joy and more resilience And yeah, Nando, any parting words for you?
Thank you, Avery. Thank you for
Yes,
inviting
thank
me,
you.
and thank you for your friendship. And I hope that we get to travel again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, and we'll leave it there.
Thank you. Bye.